Many Cubans prefer the Canary Islands to live. That's not my case, but I came to find out what makes this island so special. Specifically, we are in Gran Canaria, that's why I say island, but there are many more and they are all wonderful. But anyway, let's find out, right? Hello my people, how are you? And welcome back to my channel. In case you don't know me, I'm Anita Mateo, I'm Cuban. I live in Spain, specifically in the north, a Cuban who moved to the north, to the cold, to the rain. And you always tell me, always Anita, you see, go to the Canary Islands. The Canary Islands are the place where you'll feel most at home. Look, I'm happy living in Galicia where I live, but guess what? In this video, we're in the Canary Islands. As you can see from my summer outfit, I'm not currently in Galicia. However, the weather there improves in the summer and becomes spectacular. And well, specifically, I am in Gran Canaria, and guess where I'm staying? In a neighborhood called Vecindario, and it turns out that this neighborhood is one of the areas with the most immigrants in general. But I'm going to focus on Cubans. There are so many Cubans here. Here in Vecindario, since I arrived, I've heard Cubans speaking everywhere. The bus driver is Cuban. Cubans are everywhere. There are also many Venezuelans and Colombians. People from all over are present. Spain is home to people from around the globe, particularly from Latin America, who chose to settle there. And especially many Cubans, because I'm going to talk about Cubans, which is what I know, choose to come to the Canary Islands. Let's find out why and discover what it's like to live in this neighborhood full of Cubans. Remember to like, subscribe, and join the channel for new videos every Friday. Now let's begin. So many Cubans, especially the ones I know. I'm right here, right now, in Vecindario in Gran Canaria because I have childhood friends living here. And I have so many acquaintances here because many of us Cubans chose to come live in the Canary Islands. And there are so many reasons for this, and I'm going to tell you about them. You see, Canarians and Cubans have very close ties historically. The Canary Islands and Cuba share a close bond that goes back to the Spanish colonization. The Canary Islands actually served as a stopover for ships on their way to my Caribbean island. This fostered significant cultural, commercial, and various other exchanges, resulting in the similarity of our accents. The Canarian accent, one of the most beautiful in Spain, reminds me of the Cuban accent. I absolutely adore it. It's very different from the one on the mainland, you know? Do they speak with that accent they have on the mainland? In each autonomous community of Spain, the accent differs completely. The Canary Islands accent is much more similar to Cuban and Venezuelan accents, though it's not identical everywhere. Since it served as a stopover, that's how they brought many Canarian traditions and things over there. It also shows in the cuisine. In the Canary Islands, the Canarian banana is one of the most famous things. We love bananas. And you know that we Cubans love to eat with bananas? We Cubans eat everything with bananas. Many people from Galicia find it strange and think bananas are only a fruit, not meant to be eaten with dinner. Canary bananas are famous, but I'm unsure if Canary Islanders eat them with everything like Dominicans do. If you're from the Canary Islands, let me know in the comments. Cubans love many things about the Canary Islands, such as the fact that it's an island, which is why we come here. Those born on islands surrounded by the sea are drawn to the island and the sea, and we simply love it. Today feels empty since it's Sunday and I went out to record. I usually record when the streets are busy because I get shy. And well, another advantage that the Canary Islands have is the incredible climate they enjoy. It's also true that we enjoy warm weather and the heat. I don't mind though because I also really enjoy Galicia's weather. But when I miss the warmth or I miss something that reminds me more of my homeland, of my roots, well, when I come to the Canary Islands, I feel more at home. Because here it's like the same warm, the climate is very similar to Cuba. It's different because there are some little differences, but still. That's why it's one of the reasons many Cubans and people who like warm weather choose to come to the Canary Islands. Also, as you can see, the architecture and everything here, for example, is very different from where I live. It reminds me somewhat of Cuba, although unfortunately everything in Cuba is destroyed. It's not as nicely painted or well taken care of, but it's an architecture that I think is very similar to the architecture here. Even in the Canary Islands, there are peaceful seas. That flower, which is everywhere in Cuba, is beautiful. And look here, I think it's one of the few times. And in Malaga and Andalusia, I also saw the peaceful seas. And here in the Canary Islands is where I've seen them. Don't forget we're in Spain. You can't miss the quaint terraces and people enjoying a beer. One thing that really catches my attention about Spain is the country as a whole. is that people always say that their identity, like who they are, is where they're from. Let me see if I can explain myself. For example, people from Galicia have always told me that they feel Galician first and then Spanish. It's like they see themselves as being from their region first and then from the country as a whole. Because since it's such a diverse country, you identify with the area you're from since everyone is quite different. And that's exactly what happens with the Canarians. Canarians also identify first and foremost as Canarians. Like they are special, they are different, and then they identify as Spanish. Although many people also say something like, I've seen comments like that on social media, like, isn't the Canary Islands in the African continent? Well, geographically it's in the African continent, but what belongs to Spain belongs to Europe. Spanish people argue a lot among themselves here. Nevertheless, I love the Canarian people and the people from the Canary Islands. They also have many characteristics very similar to us Cubans. I'll tell you about some that I've noticed. I feel a lot of hospitality here. They are very cheerful and enjoy parties. The carnivals in Tenerife are some of the best and most famous in the world. I believe that we Cubans also inherited those festivities and carnivals. I don't know if it's from the Canarians because I don't know if in the rest of Spain they have those kinds of parties, also called carnivals. I'm not sure, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Although they have their own parties, for example with other names, in Galicia it's more like verbenas or something else. But they don't actually call them carnivals, but here in the Canary Islands they do call them carnivals just like we do in Cuba, where we also celebrate carnivals. As I already told you, they have a strong pride and sense of Canarian identity, and that's very beautiful. I really love that. We also have a lot of things in common when it comes to food. Ropa vieja is a typical dish in both the Canary Islands and Cuba, where it is considered a traditional meal. We won't discuss the food shortage in Cuba. I'm referring to the fundamentals and the culture as a whole. Ropa vieja is also a dish that we Cubans feel identifies us, even though meat wasn't forbidden. And all that. But anyway, here in the Canary Islands, ropa vieja is also very typical. They also eat a lot of root vegetables like we Cubans do. Potatoes, yuca, and all those kinds of things. In fact, one of my favorite dishes here in the Canary Islands is papas arrugadas, which I love. And in Cuba too, we don't eat that exact typical dish, but we also eat a lot of root vegetables. And another thing that's also well known is that we have a lot of words in common, words that only Cubans and the Canarians share, like, for example, guagua. We Cubans call the bus guagua. And here in the Canary Islands, they also call the bus guagua. The bus station has a big sign that says Guagua Station. It doesn't say bus station, people just call it guagua. Officially, it's called guagua. Saying muchacha or muchacho, though here they might say chacha, chacho, or something similar, but I'm uncertain. I love how they speak in the Canary Islands. They also have various types of mojo sauce, which is commonly used there. We're heading to a supermarket where I'll buy and try some typical items and Canarian products that you can't easily find in the rest of Spain, as they're typical from here. Stay tuned because we're going to do a lot in this video. We're also headed to the beach. I'm already in my bikini, ready to go. And I'm going to show you the beach I go to because it turns out it's an artificial beach. And we're going to be checking out what that artificial beach looks like because it's not a natural beach from here. I don't know. I'm really curious about that beach. And well, like I was saying, because I changed the subject, we also have our own mojo in Cuba, which we put on yuca, although it's very different from Canarian mojo. English has many words, like the topic I wanted to discuss. Well, now a gentleman greets me. Who's right in front of me. A man greets me, I keep my distance, and he says goodbye. I'm not sure if he knows me. I feel like people here are a bit more, like they gain a bit more confidence. In Galicia, people are a bit more reserved. They're super friendly too, but quieter. I really like that personality. But here, they're more like us, Cubans. And of course for Cubans, look, I'm rooting for them. I'm going to tell you something. People from Cuba who leave Cuba, many of them don't leave because they don't like it. Like the way of life in Cuba. Or things like, for example, the weather, the food, the people. A lot of people do want to keep that. What they obviously don't want is the hardship and the struggles they go through in Cuba. The terrible life there, lacking proper conditions, freedom, and everything else. But the other things that identify us, there are many people who do want to keep them and who are happy feeling like they're in a place like that, in that way. That's why they come to places like this, just as many Cubans go to Miami for the similar climate. It's full of Cubans, just like Cuba itself. I imagine this also happens with other nationalities like Venezuelans and Colombians. They also want to go somewhere where they feel at home. I enjoy feeling at home and may consider living in the Canary Islands for a period of time in the future, even if only briefly. It's a possibility I'm open to. I'm currently in Vecindario, Gran Canaria, staying at the home of some childhood friends, as previously mentioned. Now that I'm back, look at what we're having for lunch. Some rice, since this is a Cuban household. And ropa vieja, but does this ropa vieja have corn in it? My friend made it, and try it, it's super delicious. Let me know your favorite Canarian food in the comments, especially if you're from the Canary Islands. I've tried a few dishes, but I want to know what I can't miss. I really like ropa vieja. I don't know if Cubans, the ropa vieja from the Canary Islands and the one that's typical in Cuba are the same. I don't know. And here we are now at the bus stop, and we're heading to the beach. There aren't many people, it's just that today is Sunday, but well, people. Since it's Sunday, the beach is likely crowded, so we'll see how it goes. Well, we've already grabbed our stuff and we're heading to the beach. I'm from La Mudosa and just messing around. Beach from above. It looks super beautiful, very blue and clear. But like I already told you, it's an artificial beach. But another thing I love about the Canary Islands, which we Cubans really enjoy, is that there are beaches everywhere and we really love the beach. Specifically, it's with Amador Beach, which, as I mentioned, is an artificial beach. In fact, they made it in 1998 and they used sand that's a little bit whiter. The sand here, from most beaches on the two Canary Islands, is dark because it's volcanic sand. The beach and the water are still cold. I think in the Mediterranean the water is warmer because this water is still pretty cold. Let's try it and see how it goes. I'm going to enjoy some sun, which I love doing in Spain. I didn't do this in Cuba, where I used to avoid the sun. But I came here with my friends. Oh, so much noise. I came here with my friends. They told me I was way too pale, so I'm going to get a little bit of color. I have to be a little careful with what I record, because people here do a lot of stunts, so I don't want to film any scenes. That might be a little inappropriate. Thank you. The last time I visited the Canary Islands, I brought something with me. It's not quince paste, it's guava cream, which is like the guava bar that we also eat in Cuba and is very typical. But I took the terma, and many of you commented to me on social media because I posted it on one of my social networks that I hadn't noticed, but right next to it was. This Conchita brand, which you said is Cuban but is here in the Canary Islands, doesn't exist in Cuba. Let's read it. Let's see if it says anything related to Cuba. I don't know. Honestly, it says it's made in Las Palmas. But it seems that this was also sold in Cuba a few years ago. Because I'm telling you, none of this is sold in Cuba. Many typical Y Perdino brand products have indeed been brought to Cuba. And I was reading on the internet that it was like an association, like they send that as aid, as donations, and I don't understand. I'm going to leave you. I don't understand the article I found online. So they sell it in supermarkets, and they sell it at the same prices as here, when it's known that in Cuba, people earn very little money. Just wanted to let you know that fact. I'm taking this to Galicia too. Well, that's the ideal way to end this video. Try some famous Canarian products found in the supermarkets here. And these products, well, you can't find them on the mainland, or at least that's what I've read. Or at least I have never found these products in Galicia, and they are quite typical and famous. But only from here, from the Canary Islands, from the supermarket, and I lost track of which supermarket I did the shopping at. Now that I've shown you, well, I've already shown you some of the things I bought. So let's try them one by one. I'll show them to you and let you know if they're tasty and worth it. These monchitos taste similar to what would be called chicharrón de viento or something like that in Cuba, right? Well, in Cuba there's something called chicharrón de viento, which I don't know if it still exists because I've never seen it again over there. But monchitos are kind of similar. They're not the typical potato chips or anything like that. They taste kind of like that chicharron, but much better. That's how they use it. It smells really good. Let's try it. When visiting the Canary Islands, try the manchitos. They're delicious. Another common item from the supermarket and perdiendo are the cubanitos, as I showed you earlier. Cubanitos de Cuba, a product from the Canary Islands, is not sold in Cuba despite its name. This resembles typical Cuban sorbeto, which is more rustic and lacks the nice packaging. It brings back childhood memories. But it's more or less like that product. I mean, in Cuba, we've always called this sorbeto. This one is strawberry, and honestly, this is really delicious too. It reminds me of my childhood. In Cuba, they no longer sell items like they used to. In the past, they would sell it in small bags. It was transparent because there was very little budget to make the packaging, but it was really delicious. Both the monchitos and the cubanitos, I love them. Another very typical thing, also from here at the supermarket in the Canary Islands, that you absolutely have to try. It's the Tirma Ambrosia. This one won an award for the best chocolate bar in Spain a few years ago. It's just like this one, but covered with chocolate on the outside. I've eaten this many times, so I won't try it. Plus, it's too much sugar for today. Another thing I bought, and I'm gonna take this with me to Galicia, is the guava paste with conchita. I was told this was a Cuban brand that used to be sold in Cuba. Guava paste, or guava bar as we call it, is something very typical that we Cubans love to eat with cheese, and it makes me really happy. So I'm super happy because I'm taking this souvenir with me to Galicia. Over there in Galicia, what they mostly sell is quince paste and things like that. I've only found guava paste in one store, but generally not in supermarkets. I haven't seen it myself. And the most typical soda from the Canary Islands, Clipper, this soda is super typical. Does this taste like orange? Does it taste like Fanta or something like that? But the most typical one, from what I was told, is the strawberry one. So let's try it, because we're going to try it, because I've never tried the strawberry one. If I like it, does it taste good to me? Like the strawberry syrup from Cuba, I don't know. It's really good. Let's see, nothing. These are healthy foods, they're snacks, but they're typical things here from the supermarkets that are worth trying. When visiting the Canary Islands, be sure to try these typical products. I believe this is a good way to conclude this short video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned more about Canarians and the connections between Canarians and Cubans. Because every time I come here, I feel super at home because we are so much alike. Subscribe and remember, new videos every Friday. See you next Friday. Bye.